The traditional realizing the American dream, a bunch of Europeans coming here in the 18th century to find the American dream. This guy came 200 years later from a different part of the world. He's the 20th century version of most of our roots.
We always remember that time when Hakeem pulled up in the cab and he says, hello, man, I'm looking for Coach Guy Lewis. And he said, well, he's at the school. And all of us are laughing. It's like, well, who is that?
Olajuwon from Lagos, Nigeria. This may be the nation's finest athlete in terms of basketball.
I pulled up for a shot from the top of the key and took a shot, and he was standing about at the dotted line and jumped up and caught it. And he goes, oh, here's your shot.
Olajuwon! Oh, where did he come from?
If there's a Horatio Alger, there certainly has to be a Hakeem Olajuwon, because his story is even one that's better to tell.
In the history of doing games for the Houston Rockets ever seen a greater performance than Hakeem Olajuwon.
You'd have to think about this. If you wanted to shoot a movie of a guy like Hakeem coming over here and seeing his progress, nobody would believe it. They'd say, that, no way that could happen. But it did happen.
Hakeem's long journey began in Lagos, Nigeria, where, to make his story even more incredible, he grew up playing every sport except basketball.
High jump, team handball, field hockey. And I was more of an all-around athlete where I just like to play.
But standing 6 feet 7 inches tall at the age of 16, Hakeem finally discovered the sport he seemed destined for.
Basketball has something that's so unique that immediately I pick up the game and realize that this is the sport for me. All the other sport just becomes a secondary.
Learning the game at an incredible pace, he led his high school to a national championship, and at the age of 18, now standing almost 6 feet 10 inches tall, Hakeem would be urged by his coach to continue his development in America.
My first response is, I didn't know anybody in the United States. Then he told me he has some friends which are coaches in the United States. And we talked to Coach Lewis.
This guy says, Coach, and I said, yeah. And he said, this is Hakeem. And he said, I want to come down to Houston. Of course, he told me he was about 6'7" or 8", and I immediately figured that'd be 6'4" or 5". And I said, well, come on down. I went in and see my 2 assistants and said, we got this guy coming in from Africa that wants somebody to meet him at the airport.
I said, well, you want me to run out to the airport and pick him up? When is he coming in? He said, probably about 11:30, 12 o'clock. I said, Coach, I'll go out there. He said, no. He said, let him take a cab. It was about 12:30, 1 o'clock. Here comes the cab. And there's Hakeem getting out of the car, getting out of the yellow cab, and getting out of the yellow cab, and getting out of the yellow cab. The kid was so big, Guy V says, Donnie, get out there and get that kid's bag and get him in this office.
Hakeem had entered a strange new world, but he quickly set about making himself at home.
The campus life was a wonderful life for me. Getting to meet people, different students from different majors, different backgrounds, getting up in the morning, going to class. So I'm on campus, I'm a university student.
Hakeem's adjustment on the court went equally well. Though his offensive skills were limited, he made his impact felt from the start. Improving with every game, Hakeem helped the Cougars go all the way to the Final Four. And though they would lose to the eventual champion, the North Carolina Tar Heels, Hakeem's basketball education was just beginning.
I told him that. I said, you just need to work hard this summer on your shooting and offensive ability, and there's no doubt you'll be a starter next year. And of course, boy, he just lit up at that.
Working out during the off-season in a Houston recreation center, Hakeem found a perfect opponent to help him in the next stage of his development.
That summer, we were playing with the professionals. That's where I was playing against Moses Malone. Moses was not, really playing around. He was very physical and really playing me very tough.
Moses really took it to him. He pounded on him, he banged on him. And I know there were days, Hakeem has said, that He wanted to stop. He wanted to quit, but he also had a drive to be the best, and Moses brought that out of him.
After months of daily battles, Hakeem sent his mentor a final message that he had learned his lessons well.
A shot was taken, and Hakeem came out of nowhere, and he went up and he grabbed it, and he went back up, and Moses, went up with him, and we're just gonna say, oh Lord, he gonna throw the young boy down, and Hakeem just took Moses and just sort of like threw him down and dunked it, and we all looked and said, oh, here we go.
Hakeem was now ready to test his hard-earned skills, and the Cougars' schedule promptly gave him the ideal opportunity.
We had this tournament every year. It's called the Blue Bunny Classic. And Sonny Smith brought his Auburn Tigers in, and Mr. Charles Barkley was with him. And he said the first thing he's going to do, he's going to dunk on Hakeem. First 4 times he went up to dunk it, Hakeem had 4 block shots.
And throughout his sophomore year, Hakeem would send notice to the college basketball world that he was now ready to dominate.
He hustles down the floor as well as any big man that's ever played the game.
Olajuwon, a one-man wrecking crew.
At the free throw line. That's a no-no. This game's too easy. They bring a lot of Nigerians over with it.
His game progressed to the point where he was very good on both ends of the court. No longer was he a liability on the offensive end. And once he developed that, there's nothing you could do.
Behind Olajuwon, the Cougars reeled off 22 straight wins. Suddenly, Hakeem was at the center of basketball's best team and most celebrated fraternity.
Phi Lemma Gemma at its best.
It just took off. I mean, nationwide, people started hearing about Phi Lemma Gemma. And the players took a lot of pride in that.
Juan Roseborough has it swatted away by Hakeem. I've got 6 blocks now for Olajuwon. Franklin back to Michael Young. Oh, what a dunk shot.
Houston would go on to win the Southwest Conference title and race through the early rounds of the NCAA tournament. And after defeating the celebrated Louisville Cardinals in the semifinals, they headed into the championship game as clear favorites to take home the national title.
Gordon rejected by Hakeem. Olajuwon with 6 rejections. Yeah. What a show. And so the Houston Cougars have won now 26 in a row.
You know, you guys had 13 dunks today. I don't know if you realize that. Pretty good high percent. 13.
That's it? I think that's great. Louisville can't join our fraternity.
And they can, huh?
Since the semifinal was billed up as the best teams in college basketball, Louisville against Houston, after we won that game, we kind of thought, well, we're the best.